I am Eric Butts.
I'm Jim Butts.
We're SuicideFantasyFootball.com, live from the War Room, now giving you the top 5 tight ends in fantasy football this year. Go ahead, Jim. Break it down.
Tight ends is always one of the positions where you got a whole lot of dispute. Everybody thinks there's going to be somebody better. I know you already got one that is definitely not in my top 5.
Okay.
But my number 1 is going to be Vernon Davis.
Okay.
He's a beast.
Wow.
He's got a ton of yak. Alex Smith, if he's the quarterback there, he throws the short ball and lets him go run after the catch. I think Vernon Davis has shown that he's probably the best weapon. If Crabtree excels a little bit, it opens the field up even more for him. But Vernon Davis is my number 1.
Top 5, not number 1.
Number 2, Dallas Clark. Always is a monster. If he didn't get hurt last year, he would have been the number 1. So I'm going Peyton Manning's favorite weapon, Dallas Clark. Number 3, from the hated Dallas Cowboys, Jason Witten.
Yep.
As much as it pains me, one of the previous videos was don't let your feelings get in the way. And even though I can't stand the Cowboys, I'm telling you, I would take Jason Witten. He is the best weapon on there, not Miles Austin, not Dez Bryant. Jason Witten is the one that carries it. Number 4, who would be number 1 if I didn't think he's a China doll, is Antonio Gates. The turf toe is something that hasn't gone away. I don't think he's going to ever be the player he was 4 or 5 years ago. So I can't put him as number 1, but he's too much of a monster to leave him out. And number 5, injury question, but I would put him as 2 or 3 if he wasn't hurt last year, Jermichael Finley. He showed so much talent and so much ability. If you miss out on the top 4, I think he'd be my next one in line, and that's who I'd be picking.
All right, Jim, I know you think one of my 5, the guy that you're definitely going to disagree with, is Mercedes Lewis, because I've been a huge Mercedes Lewis fan since he came out of UCLA. Not in my top 5, so I'm letting you down a little bit. My number 1, I know you think he's a China doll. Antonio Gates is a beast. If he plays 14 games, he's better than anyone else except a healthy Dallas Clark in a 17-week season. So I'm going him number 1. Number 2, I am going Jason Witten. I hate the Cowboys too, but Jason Witten is a machine for putting up stats.
You were just telling Drew Yazzie that he was a bum.
No, because he's a Cowboys fan,
okay,
and I hate
gotcha.
Cowboys fans, so that was just me being an Eagles fan.
Gotcha.
But again, fantasy football, try and take emotion out of it. I love Jason Witten. Number 3, I am going Dallas Clark. Oh, I would have him number 1, maybe number 2, but the injury that he's coming back from, you never know how long it's going to take for him to get reacclimated back into that offense. And someone else filled in his shoes pretty nicely that's going to take some catches away from him this year. Number 4, I got Jermichael Finley. Same thing. Injury, you never know. I'm being safe, not taking a flyer on him at the 1 or 2, putting him at the 4 spot. Number 5, Jim, I've got Vernon Davis. I do think he's a tight end with receiver speed. I know he's like a mismatch to a lot of linebackers that can't cover him. But until I know that there's a star, someone who can really distribute the ball out in San Francisco, and I know if it's Alex Smith, he's going to need to dump off to some tight end action, but I really think if it's Alex Smith, they're not going to do anything. And I think he could be a little bit of a letdown if they don't get a quarterback to fill those shoes.
You're wrong.
I knew you were going to say I was wrong when you put him number 1, just like I think you're crazy. Let's see how many people think Vernon Davis is really the number 1 tight end in fantasy football this year. Listen, what we're really going to have to do, it's just going to be fun, is at the end of the year, go back and watch these videos and then really talk some smack to tell him how much of an idiot he is. Because he never remembers. He always remembers the stuff he was right about and never remembers the stuff before the season started that he was clueless about.
That's not true. Listen, here's the deal. When you want to be good, you have to take risks. When you step out on a ledge, you're wrong sometimes. If you make bold predictions and you really take chances, you're going to be wrong 25, 30% of the time. If you just go chalk, you don't win and you don't succeed, but you're right. So who really cares?
I'm not saying chalk. I'm not going chalk. I'm going the 5 best people. I'm not trying to prove that I can go out on a ledge. I'm giving the people that are listening the real deal of who the top 5 people are.
Yeah, hey, man.
All right, well, tell us what you think. SuicideFantasyFootball.com. Follow our blogs. SFF.com on Twitter. /Suicide Fantasy Football on Facebook. And don't forget to check out the Suicide Fantasy Girls on Facebook either.